Hey everybody, it's Bruno. Here's my new episode of MB. Be my next guest on MB by clicking on the link below and we'll contact you. So listen, enjoy the episode.
That's right. What's up, you sucker? What's up, you sucker? What you looking at?
Okay, let's go back to something that you do right now.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about that a little bit. I've gotten to know you a little bit. You can do anything in the world. I'm convinced of that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I really mean that. You're one of those special people that give. Why not move to a corporate job or, I don't know, why do you stay where you're at? I'm not saying it's a bad job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, boy, oh boy, you work hard.
You know, when I first started getting into this work, you know, right after university and really starting and I was making I think it was like $35,000 a year working my butt off after university.
Where was that?
And at my first job actually was at the Center for Newcomers.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yep. And then I moved away after a couple of years and did other things. And then
we met back then.
Yes.
At DeVry.
Yes.
Very, very, very briefly.
So DeVry was like years after that, right? Maybe about 10 years or so after that. But my first job I'd gotten at the Center for Newcomers. It was called the Calgary Mennonite Center for Newcomers at the time.
Yeah.
And I was a youth facilitator. And I worked with gang-involved youth, so gang members that were really trying to get out of the system. And I made, I think it was $36,000 a year doing this. And I had friends that I went to high school with that didn't do post-secondary, but got into the oil and gas industry and were making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, even up to $100,000 because of the oil and gas industry. And I had other friends that went to university and did other things, right? And got into the corporate world. So engineering, accounting, whatever else, still making, you know, they're starting at 50, 60, 70, you know, and moving up. And here I am at $36,000. And I, you know, and people my friends used to ask me that all the time. They're like, what is wrong with you? You know, you could be doing jobs like us. Like, why aren't you doing that? And my only answer at the time used to be, you know, because I just really feel like this is where my heart needs to be. Like, I just really feel like this is where I need to be. And, you know, move it down a few years later where we were having drinks one night, a couple of my friends and I, and they said, Anila, you actually sleep well at night, don't you? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you like sleep through the night and you feel really good about going to work and what you're doing and, you know, that you're making a difference. And I was like, well, yeah, don't you? They're like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. And that was my first wake up call to a lot of my friends feeling like, you know, yeah, I'm making a lot more money than you, but I just don't feel like I'm contributing the way that I want to contribute. Right? I don't feel like, you know, I've actually made a difference. So, you know, because I'd invite my friends out, especially with the youth. We'd do like, you know, theater productions where the youth told their stories, or we'd do fundraisers and different things. And they got to meet these kids and see how they were able to transition. They're like, the work you do is actually changing people's lives and helping these kids. Whereas the work we do, you know, a good friend of mine, she's like, I monitor oil wells all day long. And I've got a big fancy, you know, oil and gas production accounting degree to do this. But that's all I'm doing is monitoring these all day long. And so, you know, which I still think has a lot of value, of course. Yeah. It's got value, but it was just very different in terms of the kind of work. And so I think that for me, and now, you know, depending on the not-for-profit and depending on the kind of work you're doing, some of our salaries may not be exactly as high as the corporate world, but they are very good salaries and you can make a really good living doing that, right? Like, I'm not making $36,000 anymore. That was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? And our starting salaries are a lot better now because a lot of people, not me, but a lot of my predecessors have done a lot of wonderful advocacy work to ensure that people get living wages even in the not-for-profit world, right? So there's still a long way to go, but at least our salaries are a lot better and you can have a really good productive life with them.
I'm going to ask you a question. So we're on NB. Not everything has to be serious, but I'm going to turn it up a little bit because I find you as being as brutally honest as I've ever met anybody. And you're the go-to person when I'm asking any not-for-profit questions. Not-for-profit sometimes, just like any other industry, gets a kind of a black eye. Because you got some bad actors. You get called, I don't know how many times probably, from suppliers and say they have an open heart and all they really want is, get contracts from you and stuff like that.
Sure.
What do you tell people that want to get into not-for-profit with profit in mind?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Like, get a job because it pays well, and then get in it for the wrong reasons. What could happen? Just tell us.
Well, I think first of all, it's really important. We call it not for profit, but the profit that we make is for the social good, and any profit that we do make goes back into the community, right? So it's not good for me. I either have a balanced budget or I have a surplus. If I have a deficit, that's a very bad situation, right? But a surplus means that I can put that back into programming. I can put that back into the community, right? So we're always trying to make a profit in the not-for-profit world. We just don't have shareholders that are going to get dividends or going to get any kind of profit off of that. The dividends, the profit goes into the community, back into the community. So it's still a business model, number one. I think people that are trying to get into the not-for-profit space in terms of being vendors or in terms of, participating in that, what's really important to understand is that for most of us, or for all of us, at the Center for Newcomers, it's mostly government funding. So that's taxpayer dollars. That's your dollars, my dollars that are going in to help the community. So in terms of doing that, we have to be extremely accountable in terms of where that money's going. So if you're not going to provide us with a rate that is going to be, useful to us, that is going to actually, that we can actually stipulate, to the government or to our funders that we did 3 quotes or minimum, and that this was the best rate and this is absolutely needed, we're not going to do it, right? And in the same regard, the not-for-profit world works only when the board of the organization also works well, right? It's really important, like at the Center for Newcomers, I'm so proud that we have a board filled with really highly motivated people that, have really varied expertise in different areas. And they keep us accountable in terms of, and their primary goal is the fiduciary responsibility. They're making sure that me as a CEO, I'm not embezzling money, I'm not using it frivolously, I'm not hiding it, I'm not whatever else. Those are things that are important. And not-for-profits can get a bad name when there isn't any oversight or when people are left to do what they want. So a very strong not-for-profit board is extremely important. And if you want to do business with a not-for-profit or you want to give charity to a not-for-profit, it's well within your rights as a citizen in Canada to ask, tell me about the governance structure in your board before I make my donation. Tell me about, how much goes to administration. At the Center for Newcomers, about 15% goes to administration.
That's pretty low.
And some people actually will tell us it's pretty high. So I'm very happy to say to them, this is where the admin cost comes from. Because often, if I've got 1,000 people coming through my doors every day, nobody is paying for the toilets and for to ensure that we've got the basic, human decency needs, right? That's coming out of admin costs to do the cleaning and to make sure the hygiene is there.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want someone to be our next guest, simple. Click below in the description and we'll get in touch with them. Thank you for watching and please subscribe and you'll never ever miss another episode.